welcome to the Try2 Rushdown. This is the first video in a series of fighting game tutorials that focus on the ins and outs of particular characters in different fighting games. Today, we'll be focusing on the latest addition to the roster of Skullgirls, Squigly. Generally speaking, Squigly is one of the slowest and least mobile characters in the game, but she more than makes up for this in the fact that she has some of the best setups, fully cancelable normals, and can hit confirm for a full damage combo from 2/3 of the screen's length away. She also has some very unique abilities that have never been seen in any fighting game before, in that she can manipulate the camera and super flashes to her advantage. When Squigly is on the field, the mechanics of the game are on her side. Before we get into our move list, let's go over Squigly's mobility really quickly. Now, you'll notice that she's actually very, very slow. Mobility is not Squigly's strong suit. She doesn't have any kind of air dash to speak of, and her ground dash has a very, very long startup, so you can't really use this to, say, run away from your opponent and, like, bait some kind of, like, normal to whiff or something like that. You can't use it for that because of the fact that it takes so long to get started up. Matter of fact, this backdash is pretty much useless except for, like, you know, just making distance. Although usually Squigly's moves will do a good enough job of making distance for you, like her throw or her dragon punch. She has lots of things that are already really good at just getting the opponent away from you. So you're typically not going to want to backdash or jump back very much to widen that gap because of the fact that her moves will do that for you. And then she has this double jump, and basically jumping is Squigly's fastest way of moving around the screen. I mean, you can also chase down opponents with this dash, but again, that takes really long to get started up, and it's not really a dash, it's more like a run, like KOF style. And so you can use this to, like, hunt down your opponents if they're running away from you, or to try and outrun a push block, but usually if you're getting zoned out, your best way of getting in is either just a raw double jump to get in, or do a dash double jump. However, when you try to get that PP dash double jump to get in, you have to remember that if you just hit dash and then jump, you're not going to get that extra horizontal momentum. You have to wait for the few frames for that dash to get started. Like, if you'll notice, like, she doesn't actually start to get that speed until like a few frames into her dash. So you have to wait a little bit after you hit the dash button to jump to get that extra horizontal movement. If you just press it and then jump, it's the same as just double jumping normally. See? You have to wait and then get that extra momentum. Also, you can, you know, do a hyper jump with Squigly. Although this gets you higher, but it doesn't get you any more horizontal movement. So, I mean, usually hyper jumping with Squigly isn't really that necessary, because Squigly has ups, you know, you don't need to worry about getting any higher with her usually. And but what she does not have is horizontal movement, so you want to make as much use of that dash jump as possible. And as far as I know, you can't dash jump and hyper jump at the same time. You have to choose one or the other. You can't just dash hyper jump, otherwise that'll just cancel the dash jump and go into a hyper jump. So usually I'll opt for this dash jump, or just a raw double jump, to get across the screen as fast as possible. She also has this, her jumping medium punch, which gives her a little bit of backwards momentum, which it's not much, but it can literally make all the difference. As a matter of fact, this move is amazing. It's spectacular. I'll call it the best jumping normal in the game, and I'll go into the reasoning for that more and more as I go through this tutorial, but for now, just know that this is great because of this backwards momentum that it gives you. Let me see what else is there to go over in terms of Squigly's momentum. You can change her jump arc with her double jump, sort of like a Super Ghouls and Ghosts style. So if you jump straight up, if you neutral jump, you can then jump again, up again, or jump back. You can do a neutral jump into a jump forward, or you can jump forward and then jump back. You can jump back and then jump forward. And this is actually a lot more useful than you might think because of the fact that you can precisely manipulate these jump arcs to get certain situations that you normally would not easily be able to find. Like, for instance, I know for a fact that if you jump back and then jump forward, you can cross up with this medium punch. Oh, if you time it right. There you go. And that's, like, almost guaranteed as long as you time it right. It's pretty easy to do. And as a matter of fact, You can't see it right now, but I'm actually doing something that's kind of breaking the game here. And again, I'll go more into detail with this later on when I go over her normals and her resets. But yeah, that's all there is to know really. Oh yeah, she has dive kicks. Dive kicks all day with Squigly. This is pretty much, yeah, this is one of your best ways of getting in with Squigly. Do a double jump, dive kick. Her light dive kick goes down faster, but she can't combo out of it. Her medium kick dive kick takes a little bit longer to get started, and she can combo out of it. But her light and mediums are not overheads. I'll go more into detail of this later, and then her heavy kick dive kick takes an eternity to start up. Oh. But yeah, so that's pretty much all there is to Squigly's mobility. She does not have... Oh yeah, and of course, she can hop around while she's charging. And this actually... this is faster than her normal walking speed. So if you just do these little like hops around, this is a great way to move around the map while your opponent is either in the air or getting knocked down or something like that. And you can't block while you're doing this, but you can easily just cancel and then start blocking from that if your reaction time is good enough. And so basically, this is relatively safe so long as you're on point with your stance canceling and then blocking. There's no delay there. There's no recovery for stance canceling, so you can always block as long as you don't get caught off guard. All right, and that's all there is to Squigly's mobility, really. Okay, next we're gonna go over Squigly's normals. So let's get started with her standing light punch. Alright, this is an important move to know because of the fact that it is her fastest normal. This comes out in only 5 frames, and I know that compared to some other characters in the game, 5 frames is not that fast, but it is the best that Squigly has. So absolutely keep that in mind, that if you're ever trying to make a link and you're finding that you're just barely not making it, consider using light punch if you're not already, because that'll definitely link in some situations where none of her other moves will. If you hit it twice, you get 2 moves. They don't do great damage, so what a lot of people will do is they'll only use 1 and then combo out of that to avoid overscaling their combos early on. But quite frankly, you should not be using this early on in your combos anyway. If you use this, it should be well into the middle of your combo, and the reason for this is because you just cannot start combos with this against Philia, Valentine, or Double, and the reason for this is, let me go ahead and make her crouch here. Whoops, no, that's not it. There we go, let's make Philia crouch. Philia, Valentine, and Double have low crouching hitboxes. Which, I mean, that's interesting because it looks like I'm lower than she is right now, but right now her hitbox is lower than mine. And this makes it so that her standing light punch just goes right over her head. So you cannot start combos with this, because of the fact that it'll just completely whiff these 3 characters. And as a matter of fact, you can't even combo into it if they're crouching. Oops, let's try it again. Even if you combo into it properly, it's still going to completely whiff and go right over their heads. So you can't even use this in your starting chains because of the fact that it'll just completely ruin your combo and ruin your day. You only want to use this in combos if you know it'll connect, like say after a silver cord or after a restand. You can also do something like oops, let's try it again. Restand. Oops, oh, you can do it after that, if you can stance cancel it properly. Let's see, what next? We have her crouching light punch. Now this is a cool little move, and the reason for it is, let's go into these hitboxes here. Take a look, the green are her hurt boxes, which means that if you attack the green, you hurt Squigly, and the red are hit boxes. So as you can see, the hit boxes on these, on this standing light punch, you can see a little bit of green overlapping with that red, which means that, you know, this move can trade if somebody puts out a decent enough move with decent enough priority. Now, look at this crouching light punch. There is no green there. That means there's no hurt box on those flames, which means that for every area that this move can hit you, Squigly cannot be hit. And that makes this a great, great counter poke. That combined with the fact that you can control the amount of active frames that this is out in the field for. I don't know the exact amount of frames right now off the top of my head, but I'll put it on the screen. But you can control precisely exactly how long you want this to be out there for. And you can just call it back. So basically this is safe on whiff because of the fact that you can just cancel it whenever the hell you want. You can also control the amount of hits it does between 1 and 3 hits. See? Yeah, but this is... I don't really recommend starting combos with this because of the fact that it starts up in 7 frames, and it's just better alternatives for starting combos. But if you ever are getting hardcore poked out by somebody who's using these like low pokes, you can just throw one of these out there and shut that down. You can even counter poke into a combo. So yeah, absolutely keep that in mind. This is a great counter poke. And it's completely safe on whiff, so you can just throw this out there whenever. Let's see. Well, that's misleading. It's not completely safe on whiff because of that 7-frame startup, so you can get punished for just throwing it out there, but generally speaking, it is safer than her other normals because of the fact that you can control that recovery there. Alright, what's next? Her standing light kick, her clause A. Now, usually, you're not going to want to use this very often in your combos. Again, if you hit it twice, it hits twice. And, again, it doesn't do that great of damage. It actually does worse damage than the standing light punch. So, 99% of the time, you're going to want to prefer to use her crouching light kick. It's just better in every way. It does more damage, fewer hits, and it has longer range and it hits low. So, you're almost always going to want to use this instead of this. But there's one very specific application that you can use this standing light kick for. And that is, as I demonstrated earlier, it works amazingly well for getting restands. So if you just let her bounce, and then bam, you can get her right back on her feet and do a restand combo. And that's its #1 application. If you're ever trying to do a, if you're ever trying to capitalize on a knockdown, this is the move to do it with. I recommend always starting knockdown chains with that. Unless, of course, you've already used your light kick for the combo. Let's see, I think that's all there is to say about standing light kick. As for her crouching light kick, this is one of her best normals. It comes out in only 6 frames, and again, this is 1 frame slower than this, but it hits low, and it has pretty good range, and you can combo from it very easily. So yeah, I recommend starting almost all of her combos with this if you're within range. Now the range on this is a little bit deceiving because of the fact that her toes, like her toes are not part of the hurt boxes. As you can see, there's a little bit of room there where she can get counter poked, and she's not doing any, she doesn't have any active hit boxes, but this is still a wonderful move to start combos with. So if you're within range of this crouching light kick, always use it, basically. This is going to start you so many good combos. That's basically her bread and butter starter. So yeah, absolutely use this crouching light kick, crouching medium kick combo to get full damage whenever you're within range. Let's see. That's pretty much all there is to say about a crouching light kick. It's a great move. You should use it. 6 frames. Next up we have her standing medium punch. This is an awkward one. It has quite a bit of time to start up, but it hits twice. But again, just like standing light punch, this will sail right over the heads of crouching Philia, crouching Valentine, and crouching double. So do not start combos with it. Do not put this in starting chains. Matter of fact, this just her medium punches in general are just not very useful in terms of just utility. But I have found one really good use for this standing medium punch, and that's specifically against Philia. So if I just set her to do an instant air dash here, which I know that a lot of players have trouble with Philia's instant air dashes, so let's go ahead. Oh, it's already on. Oh. Let's put it on that. Alright, so I'm going to make her do an instant air dash hard punch, which a lot of players have trouble with, especially Squiglies, since as a Squigly player, Philia is going to be probably like your second hardest matchup. The first hardest being Parasol, easily. So if I make her do this instant air dash, I can completely stuff it with that. Even on a reaction, I can just stuff it. I mean, like, it's hard to react to Philia's instant air dashes, but even if you can't get that timing down for the reaction, you can absolutely do this on prediction as well. If you can just read that instant air dash coming, you can shut it down like this. Even if you're a little bit late, you can still trade or beat it with that first hit from the, let's see if I can get the trade. I think I did that hard punch a little late. Let's see. Do it again. There we go. Well, this, at worst, it'll trade if you get it right. And, at best, if you do it early, you can actually capitalize from this with a full damage combo. Let's, yeah, you gotta get both hits on it for it to, you have to get that second hit off for it to actually combo. So let's try that again. There we go. And you can get a full damage combo from this. So that's a very effective tool against Philia, or practically anybody with a good instant air dash overhead. So, yeah. Absolutely keep that in mind, that is one good use for this. However, if you try to read that instant air dash and it does not come out, you're very unsafe through the entirety of this move. So, keep that in mind. Alright, next up we have a crouching medium punch. This is even worse than her standing medium punch. It does not hit low. If I make her block, I can demonstrate this. Let's see, block... always block, block type. Let's make her block high. Alright. She can block this high. So this is not good. It has pretty decent range, but I'm afraid that that's all it has going for it. Let's put her back. Alright. Let's make her stand, actually. This is getting annoying. Stand. There we go. So yeah, this is pretty much like, this is like Squigly's extra normal. You put this in places where literally anything will work. Like after a silver cord, use medium punch because it doesn't go in, it doesn't really serve any purpose. Or if you're just trying to get a relaunch after a knockdown, you can use medium punch just because anything works there. So yeah, just her medium punch is not her most useful ground normal. And it's important to know that. However, there's one more thing I should say about the standing medium punch, and that is the fact that it does 2 hits, but if you want to, you can cancel it after the first hit. However, I do not recommend this, because look at the amount of damage on those hits. That is, it's not her meatiest normal, but it is pretty damn meaty. So, you're always going to want to get both of those hits off. Usually when you see people doing this, they're just being too eager to get the combo off. Like, there's absolutely no reason to miss out on that 450 damage hit. And you're never going to run into a situation where getting both hits on this combo is going to drop the combo. It just doesn't really work like that. If you can combo it from 1 hit, you can combo it from 2 hits in almost every circumstance. Let's see, that's all there is to say really about the medium punches. Alright, next let's look at her medium kicks. Now, her standing medium kick is her death drop. And this is a pretty cool looking move, but other than that, it's not really useful. Why is it not useful? Because of the fact that her crouching medium kick just has better range, and it does just as much damage, and it is just as fast. So yeah, you're almost always going to want to prefer to use her crouching medium kick version, except in one very specific circumstance, and that is, again, this standing medium kick has a very, very specific application, and that is the fact that you can use it as a ground-to-air launcher. Kind of like Spider-Man's, I think, standing hard kick in Marvel vs. Capcom. You can use it, if you just hit it on the ground, it doesn't do anything, it just hits. However, if the opponent is already airborne, you can knock her back up, bam, you can get another launch from that. I haven't really found very many practical applications for this, just because Squigly has so many better ways of getting a relaunch, but it's important to know all of them, so absolutely keep in mind that if you're desperate for a relaunch, that is the way to do it. But again, if you're not going for that relaunch, always opt for this. Even if you're doing something kind of awkward, it pays to do that crouching medium kick as opposed to that standing one. Like for this combo, for instance. It's a little bit awkward to get that standing light kick into crouching medium kick into standing hard punch, but it is totally worth the amount of the diligence and the practice that you're going to want to put into that, because of the fact that this just has so much better range, and it doesn't. The fact that this actually relaunches can screw you over sometimes. Like if you're trying to go for a ground combo here, you can accidentally end up making them fly into the air, and that's not desirable. Alright, I think that's all there is to say about the medium kicks, except for the fact that this, I think this is actually the longest range normal that she has. Yeah. And that's important to know because of the fact that if you're out of range of her crouching light kick, you can still get a full damage combo by using this chain right here. Did you see that? This actually combos from damn near a third of the screen away. I think it'll combo from right here. You see that? And this is part of what makes Squigly so strong, is the fact that she can capitalize with those meaty hit confirms from so far away. She can actually hit confirm from further than this, but this is her farthest ground hit confirm. And it is very important to know this. This is one of Squigly's most effective tools, this crouching medium kick into crouching hard punch. And I'm going to go more into detail on that later when I go over her combo potential, but yeah, that's a very, very important one to know. Alright, next up, let's go over her hard punches. So she has her standing hard punch, which is her little double dragon right here. And this is a pretty cool move, honestly. And it's actually her meatiest move. Like, if you look at the damage on this, 750 and then 800. So again, if you hit this twice, it'll do both hits, and you're almost always going to want to do both hits for this, because it does so much damage. As a matter of fact, if you're trying to optimize Squigly's combos, you want to stick as many of these as early on as possible in your combo. And so you'll notice a lot of players will build this charge, and then they'll do something like this. Yeah, something like that. They'll try to stick in as many of these hard punches as they can, as early as they can, before that combo scales. Because if you looked at her health bar during that, every time I got one of these off, that's a big chunk of health that falls off there. So yeah, you absolutely want to keep in mind that this is her main source of damage for her stancel combos. And on top of the fact that this stance cancels really well, you can also combo this directly into a silver cord. So for combos like that, like you saw earlier where she just completely fell out of range. Oops, let's try that again. Like, this only gets limited by the amount of knockback. You can combo it into a silver cord there to pull her back in and continue that stancel combo. And it's also important to know this, even if you don't have a charge, this still stance cancels into her light attacks. Oops, let's try that again. Even if you don't have a charge. And that's very important to know, because there's a certain curve in terms of learning to play Squigly, where you're just starting out and the stance cancel combos are completely over your head, and then you get to that intermediate level where you're like, oh, if I build a charge, I have all this stancel potential. Like, let's try it again. There we go. And so, like, intermediate players will start off every match basically like just trying to build a charge and run away, and then once they have that charge, they'll go in and go for stance cancel combos. And then you hit that sort of advanced level of Squigly play where you realize, like, wait, I don't even need a charge. You can do these stance cancel combos with no charge whatsoever and not lose very much damage for it. And so you absolutely want to keep in mind that although it's a little bit more difficult than a charge stance cancel, you can absolutely just... Let's try that again. You can absolutely just stance cancel with her light attacks with no charge. This takes a lot more practice to get off, though, because as you'll notice, I'm dropping this a lot here. And I usually never do this online, because as hard as this is to do, it's even harder to do with a GGPO frame delay. So if you're really on point with your stance cancels, you might want to consider just not even bothering trying to get that charge early on, and just going for these chargeless stance cancel combos. I absolutely feel like the strongest tools that Squigly have involve these stanceless, these chargeless stance cancels. And so I'm gonna go more into depth in that later. But yeah, just keep in mind that this stance cancels into practically everything except for her overhead and her heavy kick, which take a little bit too long to start up. I also think it might not stance cancel into that. Let's try that actually. Let's build a charge. Bop, bop. Bop. Oh. No, it doesn't stance cancel into that. Or, no, it doesn't. Wait, does it? Oh, it does. Okay, so yeah, this stance cancels into everything except for her overhead and her standing hard kick. If you have a charge. And as a matter of fact, it even stance cancels into itself directly. However, this is her hardest stance cancel to do. I think there's 2 links you have to do there, and you have, I think, like 3 frames to those 2 links. So that's one 1-frame link and one 2-frame link, unless I'm getting that, unless I'm counting that wrong. So yeah, this is... Yeah, this is actually very hard to do, And I'll be honest, usually when I get this off, it's complete luck. Like, my execution is not rigorous enough to get that down. A lot of times I'll just end up hitting the stance cancel too early. There we go, I got it off there. But so yeah, again, if you're freaking like Mark Teddy level of execution, then you can absolutely get that off. And it is worth it because that'll optimize your combos really well. As a matter of fact, her Squigly's most optimal combos start with that stance cancel, just because it does so much damage. Alright, and then her crouching hard punch. This move is amazing. Look at the hurt boxes on those. There's so much range, and this hits low. Let's go ahead and demonstrate this really quickly. Let's make her block always, and then block type high. Whoa, high. There we go. Alright, she's blocking high, right? That'll hit her. So yeah, this hits, not only does it hit low, it's active for so many frames. There's no hurt boxes on them. And although it seems very unsafe, you have to keep in mind that just like her crouching light punch, you can stance cancel this to make it safe if you whiff it. Hell, even on block, you can stance cancel it. And every single one of Squigly's normals on block, if you stance cancel, it's completely safe. You get this stance cancel, even if you don't have a charge on it, is only 16 frames. And so that's totally enough time. Even if your opponent like push block guard cancels, that's 25 frames, so you still have a 9-frame advantage there on block, if you get this right. So you have to absolutely keep that in mind, that you don't ever have to worry about doing an unsafe block string with Squigly, because every single block string you can just stance cancel it to make it safe. And it's actually important to know which one of Squigly's normals will benefit from a stance cancel, or a chargeless stance cancel rather. So let me just go over this really quickly. All of her light attacks are safe as it is. You don't need to stance cancel these at all. Her medium attacks, her medium punch, this will benefit from any stance cancel. Whoops. So yeah, absolutely stance cancel this if you miss a hit confirm with it or something, or if it's blocked, because that'll benefit. Her crouching medium, this will not really benefit from a, well, it benefits, I suppose. Let's see, is she safe as it is? Let's make her, well, I can't make her jump. This will benefit, although not much. Her crouching medium kick already has pretty good hit stun and pretty good recovery. If you use a chargeless stance cancel here, at best you'll gain 1 frame, so don't bother. If you have a charge though, it's absolutely worth it to go for that stance cancel, because it'll just, let's make her block here just to demonstrate it's a little bit better. Blocking always all. There we go. You can do some crazy crap like that if you have a charge. And then, needless to say, all of her heavy attacks, even if you don't have a charge, you always want to stance cancel those on block. Oh, like that, or, oops. I don't know why she's doing that. There we go. And then her sweep, yeah, pretty much like all of her heavy moves and her overhead, you can totally just stance cancel those to make them safe. Alright, next up, let's see, we've gone over this. By the way, this, you're totally, because of the fact that you can stance cancel it, you can throw it out there just like it's a projectile. Like, treat this not like a normal, treat this like Terry Bogard's power wave. You want to use it in situations where you use his heavy power wave, because that's what it is. It's a projectile. It has no hurt boxes on it. You can control the amount of active frames. Basically, unless, there's 2 applications for this: comboing from the crouching medium kick, or zoning. Like, if you get a knockdown, oh, let's knock her down. You want to get barely within range of this. I was a little bit out of range. Barely within range, and then use it. And did you see what I did there? Even if she teched forward, she still would have been in front of me. And let's go ahead and demonstrate this really quickly. Ground tech. I almost never use this. There we go. Forward. There we go. All right. Now, let's make her ground tech forward. I'm gonna dash up. Did you see that? She was still in front of me. And I totally would have gotten that on her if she did not ground tech. Basically, in doing that, you're forcing the opponent to either have to surrender the advantage, or to ground tech backwards. And even if they ground tech backwards, you can totally just do one of these. You can just stance cancel if you see that ground tech, and bam, you can't get punished for it. And the best application for this is if you manage to throw your opponent into the corner. So let's go ahead and do this really quickly. Let's throw her into the corner. And she's forced to either not tech or to tech forward. Oh, she wasn't quite in the corner there, but absolutely just if your opponent is waking up, this is a great move to use just to catch them off guard. Because of the fact that it hits low and the range there, you can catch them even if they tech forward. They will not go behind you. Alright, next up, let's look at her heavy kicks. Her heavy kicks, there's not much to say. Her standing heavy kick is a launcher. It does 1,000 damage, unscaled. Let's take her off blocking. And let's also turn off the... I already did, alright. Alright, it's a launcher. It does 1,000 damage. Use it, it's good. You can get air combos. What's important to know is that it has a very long startup, and so that you cannot stance cancel into it. Oh, I don't have a charge. Let's do that. There we go. Yeah, that does not combo. But other than that, you know, you can make it safe even if it's blocked by stance canceling, as I demonstrated earlier. And as a matter of fact, that's the block stun on that is so high that that's actually very, very effective. You can do something like let's make her block here. You can do something like this, and then just throw her, and a lot of players will not see that coming. Matter of fact, stance canceling into a throw is a very, very, very powerful technique that you should totally put to use, but not overuse, because eventually you'll get very predictable. Players will start either, you know, jabbing out of your throw animation, or just teching the throw. Alright, let's take her out of block. There we go. And then her sweep. Now, this is very useful, actually, if you are in that level of Squigly play where you always want to have a charge. Personally, I don't care too much about having a charge. Like, I'll build one if the opportunity arises, but a lot of players just absolutely crave that charge. And so one way they'll get it is by going for this sweep, which has, by the way, this has crazy long range. Like, if you look, it has longer range than that crouching hard punch. I think the range on it is about the same as that. It's actually, yeah, it's exactly the same as that crouching medium kick. Which is why I tend to not use this very much, because of the fact that anywhere that you can get this sweep, you can get a full combo. You see that? So basically, when you're within range of this sweep, you're also within range of this. So usually what I prefer to do is just go for a full damage combo. But again, if you're one of those players that absolutely has to have that Squigly charge, then instead of going for that combo, you can totally just sweep and then use that opportunity to build some charge. So let's go ahead and it does give you enough time. Oops. Messed that up. Alright. It does give you enough time to build that charge and run away. How couldn't I run away there? Let's try that again. Was I messing it up? Or is this some kind of squigly thing I don't know about? Let's, there we go. Yeah, you can absolutely just build that charge up and run away. And even if they tech forward, they usually will not be able to punish you in time to stop you from building that charge. Unless, of course, it's Peacock and she uses Argus Agony or something like that. In which case, you're just going to have to see it coming and make sure to get out of that animation and block in time. Again, getting attacked, getting hit while you're in this charge animation is totally your fault. Because of the fact that at any time, if you see the opponent about to punish you for it, you can hit a button and just start blocking. And there's literally no frames there of recovery for that, for stance canceling. So you just have to be on point and know when to cancel and block, or when to let whatever you have charging out. Okay? So yeah, absolutely. I don't really recommend... I mean, if you need the charge, go ahead and use the sweep. It's totally your decision, but I recommend whenever you're within range of the sweep, opt for this. It's just so much better to get damage rather than trying to charge so that you can get it. Like this, you can do a good 6,000 to 7,000 damage without a charge, whereas with a charge, the most damage you're gonna go is like a little bit over 8,000 damage. And I would rather get the extra hit confirm than that extra 2,000 damage later, you know? But then again, there are lots of situations that open themselves up when you have a charge that are not available when you don't. That I'll go more into depth with later. But there's just so much stuff that you can do when you have when Squigly has a charge. Like you can basically never you always want to charge. Like, there's never a situation where a charge wouldn't help, but at the same time, there's never a situation in which you absolutely need a charge either. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Again, if the stance canceling stuff sounds a little bit over your head, I'm gonna go over that in very thorough detail later on. But for now, I'm just gonna mention it when it pertains to her normals. So maybe you can watch that later section and come back, and then it'll make more sense to you. All right, next let's look at her overhead. Bam, forward hard punch. This is a slow overhead. It might be the slowest in the game. I don't know. I haven't timed everybody's, but this feels like the slowest. It just feels like an eternity. Like, whenever I'll use this on somebody, especially one of my friends, they'll just look at me and go, "Really? Did you really think I would fall for that long overhead?" Like, it's to the point where it takes so long to start up that your concern isn't even giving the opponent enough time to react and block it. The concern is anything will come out faster than this, so the opponent just has to press a button to beat this. It's not like Parasol, where you can legitimately catch an opponent off guard with her, like, numerous overheads. This is just like, if your opponent is hardcore turtling, and you know that they're hardcore turtling, and they know they're hardcore turtling, you can totally just call them out with this. And, but otherwise, this is not very smart to do. Use it very sparingly. This is the MSG of the, of Squigly's move list. You want to use it very sparingly, but when you do, totally capitalize on it with a stance cancel or with a silver cord. Just like her hard punch, this stance cancels into almost everything. Let's try that again. There we go. Yeah, that stance cancels without a charge into any of her lights. And with a charge, it stance cancels into all the same moves that her heavy punch stance cancels into. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. If you get this overhead, there's no reason not to capitalize off of it with a full damage combo. Yeah, other than that, there's not much to say about this overhead. Oh yeah, this is just like her crouching light punch and her crouching heavy punch, where those flames do not have any hurt boxes on them. However, if you notice, Leviathan's head there does have a hurt box on it, so this really can't be used in the same way that that these two moves can be, because of the fact that there's still a lot of vulnerability there. However, you have to keep in mind that this overhead has a lot better range than you would think. So you can actually use this from like this distance right here, and that'll still connect. So keep in mind that you don't have to be like right up in their face to use this overhead like most overheads. You can use this as kind of like a good ranged overhead, and even if you use full range, you can still get that silver cord off. I'm not sure if there's any stance cancels that work at this full range. Let's build the charge and find out, actually. Let's see. I doubt this. No, you cannot stance cancel from that range. That might work, actually. Let's see. Oh. Try that again. No, that doesn't work. Yeah, at full range, your only option for capitalizing is a silver cord, but that's still very good, and you can get a lot of damage off of that. Okay. Let's look at her throw. As I was demonstrating earlier, this throw has some pretty unique properties. This is another one of Squigly's tools that you can use to just build a charge and run away. However, it has so many better applications than that. And this is another thing that I was talking about, where if Squigly has a charge, she has way more options. Like, as you'll notice, if I'm near the corner, this will give you a wall bounce, and you can just get a full damage combo from that. However, if you're not next to a wall, this just puts your opponent like really far away from you. But if you have this charge, Squigly has the unique ability to create a wall with that serious center stage. So you can totally just get make your own wall bounce there, and capitalize for a pretty damaging combo off of that throw. I mistimed it a little bit. The timing's a little bit tricky, but you'll get used to it if you use this often enough. Let's build that charge. Throw. Syria. Let's try that again. Throw. Center stage. Bop, 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 bop. Combo. But so yeah, that's important to keep in mind, that if you have that charge, you can create that throw into a... You can, if you have a charge, every throw should become a combo. And there's no excuse for not doing that when you have a charge and you throw her. You just have to keep in mind whenever you use this throw. Do I have a charge? If so, always do this. Matter of fact, part of mastering Squigly is knowing that she can capitalize for damage off of almost every connection that she makes. There's very little that Squigly can do that she cannot get a combo off, except for, with the exception of maybe this. That's pretty much the only thing that Squigly can do that she cannot consistently combo from. I mean, I suppose maybe you could do something like this. But that uses up your knockdown, which will sacrifice a little bit of the length of that combo. It's much better to just go for this. Oops. And that also doesn't use super, which Squigly's super is very valuable, but I'll go more into that later. Alright, so we went over her throw. Let's start looking at her jumping attacks now. Let's start with this jumping light punch. Now, there's nothing spectacular to say about this. It does cross up, but just barely. It's very hard to time that cross up right. Matter of fact, I don't even know what the spacing on this is because of the fact that I never use it for a cross up. This is just like her. There we go, I got it. I think I got it that time. It's hard to tell. Anyways, yeah, this is not very useful. The hurt box on it is tiny and it's very awkwardly placed, and it's got very low priority. The only place you're gonna want to use this is to start air combos. So yeah, this is kind of her extra jumping normal that it really does not have any practical application outside of just being a light normal. Alright, next up, let's look at this, her jumping light kick. This is one of her best jumping normals. Like, a lot of people will think that this is her best jumping normal, but it is not. This is her best air-to-air jumping normal. You want to use this jumping light kick whenever your opponent is not touching the ground. And even sometimes when they are. Why is this so good? Because of the fact that it has a lot of that horizontal distance, and it goes directly across the screen. It goes straight at 0-degree angle there. It is just, the angle on that is so good for anti-airs. On top of that, just like I mentioned earlier, Squigly can capitalize for full damage off of almost everything she does. So if you ever connect with this jumping light kick in the air, you can capitalize with a medium kick. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this really quickly and make her jump. Now, you could totally just catch her out of the air and use a medium kick to capitalize for a full damage combo. Like that. If your opponent is a lot higher than Philia's going right now, like if she double jumps or hyper jumps, and you catch them really high up in the arc of that jump, sometimes this combo isn't going to work. And so instead of that hard kick there that you see that I'm doing, you're going to want to opt for a heavy punch to continue that combo, to get sort of like a relaunch. I can't demonstrate that here because I have to make her hyper jump, but just keep in mind that you can always combo from this, but sometimes you're going to want to do the circlet into the heavy kick, and sometimes you're going to want to do the circlet into the heavy punch, depending on their spacing. So that's one of those things that you're going to have to practice yourself in practical matches, and after you drop this enough times, that spacing is going to get ingrained in your head, and you're going to realize when you want to use this instead. Alright, so that's her jumping light kick. Very, very good anti-air. Always use this. Basically, unless you're anticipating something to block, you should always be throwing this out there if you're in the air and your opponent is also in the air. It's just so good. Let's make her stop jumping. That's kind of obnoxious. There we go. This is also important to know because of the fact that you can combo it into a dive kick. So even if your opponent isn't in the air and you're just at this sort of distance and you're thinking like, oh, is the opponent going to block? Is the opponent going to jump? Is the opponent going to put something out there? You can cover two of those, you can cover all of your grounds basically by just doing this. And if you notice what I'm doing there is I'm doing a jumping light kick as an anti-air, putting that out there really early in case they jump to stuff whatever they're putting out. However, I'm also comboing that into a dive kick in case they don't jump. And if you'll notice, that's not any slower than just doing a dive kick. There's basically no reason to do a neutral jump dive kick. You're always going to want to opt for the jumping light kick dive kick instead. Because that, not only will you get the dive kick, but you'll also cover your ground in case the opponent jumps to avoid the dive kick. So yeah, that's why this is so good, basically, because you can use it in tandem with her dive kick to get some pretty sick offensive defense going there. Alright, next up, let's look at her medium punch that I mentioned briefly earlier when I was going over her movement. Alright, this breaks the game. I mean, I'm not going to say that this is bugged, but we'll call it a feature until Mike Z notices it. Alright, let's put Philia onto block all. So, let's see, blocking always. Alright, let's turn the hitboxes off so you can see this a little bit more clearly, because the hitboxes do not help in explaining this. Alright, so Philia's blocking here. If I punch her, she blocks. If I kick her, she blocks. If I overhead, she blocks. If I cross her up, she blocks. So, I just want you to watch what I'm doing here, and then I'll explain it again as I'm going through it again. All right, just watch. I got a hit. I got a combo. I'm not grabbing her. I'm not crossing her up. What I'm doing here is I'm doing sort of what I call a double cross up. Like if you notice, if I do this a little bit high, take a look at Philia. She looks to the left for a bit. And that's how this unblockable works here. You get the opponent to look to the left, and then as they're turning around, they cannot block in the direction that you're hitting them, because you're hitting them from the front while they're turning around to face behind you. And that's what's happening here. Basically, because of the backwards momentum on this, I'm getting Philia to look to the left, and then I get her to turn around again, and then the hitbox on this is still behind her. So I'm basically crossing her up twice. I think I'm actually crossing her up 3 times when I do this, because I'm getting her to look behind her, and then turn back around to look at me, and then getting hit in the back with this, with the hitbox from this. And this works better on some characters than others. If I recall correctly, I think it doesn't work at all on Double, because of the fact that she's just so tall. And so, like, it's very awkward to actually get it off practically in a match. You'd have to do some crazy stuff with, like, a hyper hop or something. Not a hyper hop, a hyper jump. And Parasol is also a little bit tall to the point where she makes it a little bit awkward. Like, you can still do certain unblockable, like, double cross-ups on Parasol, but you can't get this raw jumping medium punch off of, on her. And I'm going to go even more into detail on this later on when I'm going over her resets, because there's some tricky resets that you can do with this that I will go more into detail when I go over her resets. But yeah, just know that the reason this is good is because it can do this. And by the way, a lot of people are going to cry like, oh, the training dummy's broken. This is not an issue with the training dummy. I've practiced this with a training partner time and time again. This absolutely works, and it is 100% unblockable on the characters that it works on. But it is also important to note that just because this is unblockable does not mean it's unavoidable. There are ways of avoiding this if you're good. However, it is not easy. Matter of fact, if this were to be done on me, I would not be able to avoid it every time, because it's just so tricky. But it is avoidable. Like there are very few circumstances in which that's just like a guaranteed reset. There are circumstances that I found, especially, well, only against Philia that I've been able to actually do it, but there are situations in which you can do like a 0-frame reset with this, but it's not reliable at all. Again, I'll go more into detail later, but just for now, just know this is good, and that's why. You can also use it to change your momentum in the air, but she already has double jumps, so unless you've already spent your double jump and you need that tiny bit of backwards momentum, that's not really going to help you much. But it's important to keep in mind in case you read like an updo coming out of Philia and you want to cancel your momentum, that's the way to do it. Alright, next up we have her jumping medium kick, this little circlet. Oh, this is so good. This is her best cross-up, and it does a lot of hits, but it's important to know that only the first hit does a lot of damage. Let's make her stop blocking. Only the first hit does a lot of damage. So if you take a look at the damage on these hits, the first hit does... Oh God, let's just launch her. Bam. First hit does 500, and the rest of the hits do, I believe, 300. Launch. Bop, bop. Yeah, 300. So a lot of players will just only do the first hit of that and then continue with their combo. But I really don't recommend that. I'm the kind of person who likes to preserve... Like, you only get so many hits in until Undizzy triggers, and I like to milk all those hits for all they're worth until we get that Undizzy. So I recommend just, you know, saving your air combos, because like I demonstrated earlier, the majority of Squigly's damage is going to come out of her stancels. And so you should try to optimize your combos by getting as many of these hard punch combinations as you can early on, and then once the combo scales below 50% or to max scaling, then you should go for these air combos and just go for as many hits as you possibly can. And that's how you optimize Squigly's combos. Basically, Squigly is very rarely going to benefit from holding back hits. Matter of fact, there's never a circumstance in which you're going to want to hold back hits. Well, that's not true. There are some circumstances. Like sometimes in order to complete a combo, you have to hold back hits from this. But that's pretty much it. Alright, so that's her jumping medium kick. Next up, we have her jumping heavy punch. Alright, now this is a popular move. A lot of times when you see new Squigly players, they'll not know what to do, so they'll just do this over and over again because it has so much range, and oh my god, it's so good, it's the best move in the game. This is not the best move in the game, far from it. This is the worst move in the game in terms of its priority. And so let's demonstrate that really quickly. This is very easy to demonstrate with the hitboxes on. As I mentioned earlier, green means you can get hit there, red means you can hit the opponent there, and this is orange. What does that mean? It means that for every bit of hitbox on there that is green, hitbox on there that is red, there is also hurtbox on it that's green. And that's why it appears orange like that. And this means that it has virtually no priority. This means that anything that gets thrown out will trade or beat this. It'll trade at worst, and it'll beat it in most cases. Which is why you never want to abuse this. It is a very good move because of its range, and because of the fact that Squigly can always confirm from this. With a super, I shouldn't say always. She can confirm from it if she has a super. It's a little bit tricky, but if you get that, you can confirm with that. Oh, I was a little bit too close to the corner there, so that didn't really work. But usually, if you hit this and you have a super, you can combo with that. Let's demonstrate this again because I'm messing up the timing there. There we go. And then you can always just get a combo, and which is why I said that Squigly has some pretty crazy long range hit confirms. So that's your third option, basically. At close range, you want to hit confirm with crouching light kick, crouching medium kick. At long range, you want to hit confirm with crouching medium kick, and then crouching hard punch. And then at pretty much this full range, you can just double jump in and get this, which is just stupid range. And if you have a super, and it's a lot easier to hit confirm than it looks. I know that sometimes it's only one hit, but there's a lot of period there that you're frozen, which you can very easily read whether or not whether that hit, whether that blocked, whether that whiffed. So it's easier to hit confirm than it looks. And then, again, this spacing right here is probably the hardest part of this hit confirm, because you want to be very aware of where you are on the map. If you're too close to the corner, this won't work. If you're too far away, it won't work. If you're too close, it won't work. You want to absolutely practice this time and time again, say against the training AI or something like that, to get a feel for when this confirm will work and when it won't. So, like, from this distance, if I do one jump, this will work. So, assuming that I do it right, I can get that Squigly Battle Opera off and combo from it. And this is just the kind of thing that there's no real rule of thumb for, you just have to feel it out. Like, I know for a fact that because we're in the corner here, if I were to do it, the Squigly Battle Opera would not reach. So, maybe from that distance. If I do it from this distance. Ooh. Let's try that again. Squigly Battle Opera will not reach because we're in the corner, so it will not go as far as it usually does. So, like, you really have to feel out where this will work and where it won't. But if you can get that down, that's an indicator of high-level Squigly play, when you know when connecting with this hard punch is going to get you a combo. And that's, again, like, I'm coming back to this, mentioning that mastering Squigly play is all about knowing when you can capitalize for full damage and when you can't. And it's all about knowing how to turn every single attack into your opponent into a combo. You'd think that because Squigly has this crazy range that she'd be very good at poking, but that's actually not true. Squigly's pokes are actually very weak, and instead what you want to be doing is turning everything into a hit confirm. So Squigly is not about poking, she is about long range hit confirms. It's a whole nother level of poking, basically. So basically, when you're playing Squigly, you should never just be trying to go for a poke. You should never be like, oh hey, look at these pokes that I have, I can totally just, like, you know, poke you out and zone you with this. No. You should not be using this to zone. I know a lot of people will tell you that it's good for zoning, but this is not what it's for. Well, rather, I don't know what it's for, but this is not what it's best for. What it's best for. What it's best for is getting that long range hit confirm there, and getting a full combo, if you have a super. So absolutely reserve this move for situations where you're getting zoned out and you just want to stuff whatever they're throwing out. Like, that's a really great way to you know, completely ruin a Peacock's day, because most Peacock players will not anticipate you to just be able to do one double jump and then be able to hit them. So usually they'll be throwing out some kind of projectile, and you can just completely stuff it by doing that. And against Parasol players, this is a lot less effective. And that's why Parasol is Squigly's worst matchup, because of the fact that she can throw those tears directly up at you. And especially if you're throwing out one of these, those tears will hit you no matter where they go. And that's not even the worst of it. Apart from being able to get zoned out by tears, you can also just get completely stuffed for throwing this out there haphazardly versus a Parasol, because she can knock you down from across the screen using her jumping, I don't know what it is, hard punch or something like that. She can knock you down from full screen and also combo off of that if she has a super. So yeah, do not use this willy-nilly against Parasol. Be very, very reserved in how you use this. In terms of getting in versus a Parasol, basically, like, you just have to try and, you have to be patient, you have to time out those tears, and you have to, you know when it's safe to do this double jump. A lot of times you'll want to bait out that upward tier, and then as soon as you see that tier bounce and go up, you want to go for the double jump and just go for this. But you absolutely have to be patient, otherwise Parasol will absolutely blow you up for this. Alright, next up we have her jumping hard kick. Her little Madame Dragonfly or whatever. Now, this is a wonderful, wonderful move. It has such a good angle. That is like a direct 45-degree angle downwards, which is perfect for jumping in. Now, as I mentioned before, usually when you are at this sort of like jump-in distance, you're gonna want to do like a jumping light kick into a medium dive kick. But as an alternative option, you can just go directly for this this dragonfly. If you are fairly confident that the opponent is not going to jump or anything like that, you can just do this for a very good jump in. And the reason why you'd want to do this as opposed to a dive kick is because of the fact that this dive kick, it does combo. The medium dive kick, you can combo into it, or combo from it, but if you hit it too high, as I'll mention later on again, if you hit it too high, I managed to get it that time, but if you hit it too high, like if you hit the opponent right in the head with it, especially against like double or Parasol, you will not be able to combo, even with the standing light punch, which is her fastest normal. This does not combo. So unlike that dive kick, this dragonfly, as long as you touch with it, you can dive kick and get a combo. Bam. Well, that didn't work. So maybe I'll eat my words there a little bit. But basically, this will work in situations where you're too high for the dive kick to connect. So at this range, like right here, where this wouldn't combo, if I use the dragonfly instead, it will combo. So again, that's one of those situations where like you really have to be aware of your spacing and know which one of these jump-ins you have to use to actually get that combo. Because you'll get really, really frustrated starting to play with Squigly, getting this dive kick too high and ending up getting blown up because of the fact that it doesn't combo. So basically you have two options here. Either avoid this situation entirely where you're directly above your opponent, or know when you're in that spacing and use either her dragonfly, or if you're like way up there, you can use this to cross up. So those are your three jump-in options basically. Either jumping light kick and a dive kick, dragonfly and a dive kick. Oh, that was wrong. Dragonfly and a dive kick, or cross up into dive kick. Oh, let's try that again. Those are your three options, and you're going to want to know what the spacing is best for each of those. Like, I'd say right here, this is the distance at which you want to be doing that jumping light kick and a dive kick. And then right here, this is that distance where you're going to be too close for a dive kick, so you're going to want to use that dragonfly in a dive kick. And then if you're like right here, like right up in your opponent's face, and you feel like jumping for some reason, even though I don't recommend jumping when you're this close, this is when you're going to want to go for that cross-up dive kick. Actually, that was a little bit too close. Like right around here. There we go. You can get that cross-up. And then you're going to want to combo that into your dive kick and get that combo going. It's very, very tight between these two ranges, but you got to know your spacing, and you got to know when am I going to do this, and when am I going to do this. And if you get those 3 options mixed up, you'll get blown up because of the fact that you'll just completely drop your combo, and especially against Philia, who pretty much Philia's everything is faster than yours, you will get blown up for finding yourself in this range and not having anything to combo with. Like this, you will get blown up here. Philia absolutely beats Squigly, everything that Squigly can put out at this range. So you do not want to find yourself here. That's not to say that there aren't options at that range, but I'll go more into that later on. Right now, I just wanted to get through all of these normals. As a matter of fact, I think I'm done with the exception of her air throw. I think that speaks for itself, really. Her air throw is so good. So good. So good. So good. You can not only can you use it just not only can you just use it as an air throw, you can use it for some pretty sick resets. Matter of fact, it's pretty... If you can get the timing down, you can make this into a 0-frame reset. And unless they fix this, I think the way to know whether or not you can you accomplish a 0-frame reset in training mode is that you actually confuse the damage counter into thinking that you got 1 combo when you actually got 2. So let's try to see if I can pull this off. As you can see, it reset to 0 there. Let's see if I can get this. Oh. They might have fixed this bug, but let's see. Yeah, I don't know if they fixed it or if I'm just not doing it right now, but you can totally make that into a 0-frame reset. A 0-frame throw reset, no less. Nope, alright. So yeah, her air throw is good because of the fact that you can do a medium kick, dive kick, and then get a relaunch combo. Just like that. Alright, next we're going to go over her specials, but before I start going through them one by one, first I want to clarify exactly how Squigly's stances work and how to stance cancel with her effectively. Okay, so first off, the basic thing to know is that she has 2 stances aside from, you know, her neutral stance, and those are Dragon's Breath, which is this stance right here. Now you can go into Dragon's Breath in one of many ways. Basically, by pressing down forward in any punch, you'll go into Dragon's Breath if you hold the punch that you used, or if you do a Dragon Punch with which is forward down forward punch, you can go into this stance as well. And if you pull left or right, you'll do this little Jiangshi hop, which is pretty cool, and it moves faster than her normal walking animation. So that's important to know that this is actually a faster way of getting around. So sometimes you can make links that you can combo in certain ways that you couldn't otherwise combo by doing that little Jiangshi hop. Like, let me demonstrate this really quickly. Let's hope I'm not too rusty to do this combo because I don't usually do it very often. But you can do that. Oh no, that was the wrong one. Let's wait for that to go away. There we go. Bop bop bop. And then I can do the Jiangshi. I did it wrong. Let's try this again. The hop. There we go. And if you time that right, you won't even waste the knockdown. But you can do certain combos like that that you wouldn't be able to reach with the normal walking animation, and that you'd probably overshoot with the run. So, and you also have to keep in mind that there's no startup on this, unlike her dashes and her runs. So if you want to make like one short hop of distance, that's the perfect way to do it. So you can totally, once you get very comfortable with the timing on those hops, you can use that to just make distance really easily. And now the second stance that she has is called Serpent's Tail, which down forward kick will get you into, with any kick will get you into this stance. She doesn't have a Dragon Punch with kick, so down forward kick is the only way to get into it. And it works very similarly, actually. You know, she goes into it, and then she can start hopping around by jump roping on Leviathan there. And I believe the distance is the exact same on those hops between, like, I think her speed is exactly the same between this and Dragon Punch. I mean, Dragon's Breath, so you don't ever have to worry about the discrepancy there between the amount of distance that she travels. Yeah, it's exactly the same. So, yeah, that's what you can do basically while you're in that stance. And by pressing any button except for the one that you are holding to remain in that stance, like right now you can see I'm holding Light Punch. If I press any button besides Light Punch right now, while still holding Light Punch, I'll get stance cancel and completely just get out of that. And I can just... there's a little bit of animation for her to get back into her stance there, but you can totally just block during all of that. So there are 0 frames right here after you press that stance cancel button that you're vulnerable. So, as I mentioned earlier, it is completely your prerogative to be safe while you're doing this. If you sense that the opponent is about to attack you, or if you see them doing a startup for something that will punish you, you can get supered pretty easily. But just remember that, as Mike Z likes to demonstrate, like, all supers do have startup that you can read and react to before the super flash. So if you're depending on that super flash, you're not going to be able to block, say, an Argus Agony, because that'll hit you if you're in this stance. So just when you're doing this, keep in mind that you're vulnerable and that you can't just block right away, and keep your eye on the opponent to get that stance cancel and start blocking. Alright, now, that's how you stance cancel, like, from the stance. That's the formal way of stance canceling. However, there is a faster way to get that stance cancel, as opposed to just... There are 2 faster ways, actually, to get that stance cancel, as opposed to just, you know, pressing, say, down forward light punch and then light kick, you know, to get that stance cancel. That's how I used to do it when I was first starting to learn to play Squigly. You know, you'd sort of slide your fingers along, and then every now and again, instead of getting that stance cancel, you'd accidentally get, you know, the move out by accident. So what I like to do, and you can do this in whatever way that you want, but what I like to do is I like to map both of my, 2 of my punches to 1 button. And in addition to just being able to press that button and use it as like a dash button, you can also use this to be a stance cancel button. So take both of your punches and press down forward that button, that macro that you've set, and bam, you have an optimal stance cancel. This is always going to be 10 frames if you have a charge. See, like that? Or if you don't have a charge, it's still only 16 frames. A lot of people have this weird misconception that her chargeless stance cancel is somehow, like, crazy long, but no, it's only 6 frames longer. I mean, that's the speed of a kick right here. The startup of this kick is 6 frames. So, I mean, or the startup of her throw, that's also 6 frames. Like, that's not that much time at all, and there's not much difference between her charged stance cancel and her non-charged stance cancel. And once you realize that, that is the key to really mastering Squigly. Once you realize that she's not as dependent on these charges as you think she is. Like, she can do a lot without those charges. And if you'll notice, I said 2 punches as opposed to 2 kicks. And the reason for that is because, generally speaking, her Dragon's Breath charge is so much more useful than her Serpent's Tail charge. And this has to do with the moves that you can do from each one of those stances. Like, usually, if you're ever playing a Squigly player and they'll opt to charge this before they choose to charge this, you know they're making a mistake and they don't really know what they're doing. And that's not to say that it's always bad to charge up this Serpent's Tail, but you should never do it at the expense of being able to charge this Dragon's Breath. And I'll go into details as to the reason why as I'm going through these specials, and you'll see very plainly why her punch specials are more useful than her kick specials. So yeah, that's the essence of the fast way. That's the best way to basically do a chargeless stance cancel. There is another even shorter shortcut that you can use to get these stance cancels off, and that's only available if you have a charge, so keep that in mind. There's a certain way that you can stance cancel even faster than this, or I shouldn't say faster, but more conveniently than this, if you already have a charge. And that requires you to actually get a hit, and this is usually just for, like, you know, doing stancel combos. So if I get a hit off, instead of pressing down forward both punches to get that stance cancel, I don't even have to press the down forward. I can just press that 2-punch button to get that stance cancel. So if you notice right here, keep an eye on this little movement thingy on the left side of the screen. Okay, I'm not gonna move the joystick at all to get the stance cancel off. I'm just gonna press the 2 buttons. See that? I didn't actually make the link because that one's really hard. I don't know why I tried to do that one, but I didn't move the joystick at all. All you have to do is hit 2 buttons at roughly the same time that you get the connection on that hit. It doesn't work on block, mind you. This only works on hit. So while you can stance cancel on block, let's make her block here, which is actually a very useful thing to do. So let's make her block always. Stance canceling on block is totally something that you can do, and should, because that can give her, like, unlimited block strings, infinite block strings, and so you'll have to force a push block. That one's actually not tight, I don't think, but a tight infinite block string would be something like, I think... Is that tight? No, it's this. Oh. Bop, 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 bop. There's certain tight block strings that you can do with her that are infinite, that literally the opponent can do nothing but just push block you away. And in certain circumstances, especially against Philia, if you're at this range, you want your opponent to push block you. Why? Because there's not much that Squigly can do at this range. And so, if you're at this range and you have the momentum, do not give it up. Just keep on, like, relentlessly attacking, and either do a stance cancel into a throw, or just keep on attacking until you can force your opponent to push block, and then get you back to this mid-range. And as I mentioned earlier, Squigly has so many options at mid-range. Like, this is so strong. And the fact that it's completely hit confirmable and it's safe if you unblock, like, this is so good. That's how you should get that's how you should get half of your combos off. With the others being a combination of just, this, or, some kind of jump in. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to know about her stance cancels. And I should also mention that if you're going to use the stance cancel, just get into the habit of using the punch stance cancel more often than any of the other ones. Because the fact that you're just generally the best way to play Squigly is to charge this punch as often as you possibly can. And this isn't 100% set in stone. Like, there are certain playstyles in which you just opt to always have a charge for both of these. And if you play in a certain way, like I was demonstrating earlier, that the way that I play, I like to opt for that medium kick hit confirm, even if I don't have a stance, even if I don't have a charge. I like to opt for that instead of just like a sweep and then charging. But if you have this kind of playstyle where you always take the initiative to charge whenever possible, then it might sometimes make more sense to use this stance cancel instead, because the fact that you're going to be using this a lot for that sing. But generally speaking, a lot of Squigly's combos make use of the silver cord, and that'll expend your Serpent's Tail charge whenever you use it. And so basically, you're guaranteed, if you use that silver cord, you're going to lose your charge for your Serpent's Tail every time you do a combo. So that's why I recommend you always opt to have this Dragon's Breath stored instead of that Serpent's Tail. That's not to say you can't store both, I just recommend that you prioritize this one. Alright, so that's pretty much as much detail as I can possibly put into stance canceling. The rest of it, you just have to feel it out, and like I mentioned, mapping one button to both punches really helps, so totally do that. Alright. So, I'm gonna go over her specials. Because of the way that her stances work, she has a lot of specials. And a lot of them are actually useless in most applications. But I'm just gonna go over them in order of, from, the least useful ones to the most useful ones. And, so, the first one I'm gonna go over here is called Dragon Bite. And this is her most useless special, in my opinion. I mean, it does the most damage out of all of her specials. Like, if you'd see here, it does a good... Let's make her stop blocking. Not never. Let's put her to... after first hit. There we go. Alright, if you notice here, this does a good 1,300 damage. And if you charge it up, it does even more damage. Bam, 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 bam. 2109. So, yeah, that does a lot of damage. That is a meaty special. It's actually her most damaging special move. It does about as much damage as her Daisy Pusher. Yeah, it does almost as much damage as a Daisy Pusher if you charge it up. So yeah, that's a lot of damage, but the fact that I think it's actually just neutral on hit, which is just awful. Let me see if I can make her jump or something. I'm gonna make her do an updo on reaction. Let's see, alright, let's make her just, oh no, that's not what I want. Let's cancel that. Alright, updo. Oh, wait. Record, updo. Alright, let's make her do it as a reversal. Alright, now I'm gonna hit her with Dragon Bite and then block. Okay, so yeah, if not neutral, it's a very small frame. It's a very, very, very small window, and you can't do very much of it. Let's see if can I actually make her block as a reversal? I mean, jump as a reversal? I don't think I can, but let's try it anyway. Bam. All right. Whoop. All right. Let's see if that works. I doubt it. No, it doesn't work. Oh, okay, yeah, it doesn't work. But yeah, this is. It's pretty much. It's practically neutral. You can't do much off of this, and that's why I don't recommend ending combos. Let's turn that off. That's why I don't recommend ending combos with it. Hell, I don't recommend using this at all, except maybe in the circumstance where you manage to get like a happy birthday off somebody and one of their assists, and you want to find a way to like continue that combo without actually without like, you know, dropping one of the players out. You want to do maximum damage to both of those characters. You can maybe throw a Dragon Bite in there and do a lot of damage, but I don't recommend it. I don't recommend using this move ever, actually. There's better things you can do for happy birthdays than that. I also want to mention before we move on that the Syria version of Dragon Bite, technically it is +6 on hit, and that means that you can actually, theoretically at least, you can actually combo out of this Syria Dragon Bite with a standing light punch or theoretically crouching light kick, since this is 5 frames and this is 6 frames. However, in practice, this is a lot harder than you would think. Like, even this 2-frame link, like, I'm mashing light punch here and it's not coming out. I've gotten this maybe once in training mode. And I think that, I don't know, it's just something wonky about the way that the move works. But so, just, here we go. I don't know, I can't get it to work. But maybe you can. With a turbo controller or something, I don't know. But just know that this works in theory. Oh, God, yeah, no, forget it. Okay, well, next up we have Arpeggio, which is quarter circle forward light kick. And let's go ahead and turn on the hitboxes for this. This has a very long active, yeah, this has a lot of active frames. And they're all pretty much consecutive like that. I think it's, something like, it's over 25, it is 28 active frames on this Arpeggio. And the Syria version is pretty much the same thing with an extra hit on the end. And that actually kind of, it's actually a very different move when you use the Syria version, because it's no longer just this one single, like, combo, like it's no longer this single flurry of hits. There's this added area in there in which you can get push blocked. But so, what a lot of people like to do is they like to put Arpeggio at the end of, like, you know, it's at the end of block strings. Let's put her on block here. Always. So they like to do something like, I don't know, Arpeggio. And then maybe, like, after that, they'll add one of these. However, this is unsafe. This is not a safe block string, and the reason for that is because push block guard canceling exists. So, this is 28 frames right here. If you get push blocked somewhere at the beginning of that, it only takes 25 frames to push block guard cancel. So you can absolutely get punished for hitting somebody with this. It gets somebody who knows what they're doing. So I don't recommend using this ever. It is plus on block, and it is plus on hit. As a matter of fact, this is comboable if you manage to get it off. It's +9, I believe, on hit, so let's go ahead and turn off her blocking, and then let's let out one of those, and then, oh, I didn't make it there. Kind of have to mash it out there, but you can combo this. However, it's a pretty narrow link. It's not as narrow as that Syria Dragon Bite, but you can do it. Yeah, see, I got the link there. It's not a 1-frame link, but it's still pretty difficult. Yeah, I'm just mashing and I'm still not getting it. My execution is not good enough for this. But just keep in mind that this is comboable with her light moves, if you can get the timing just right. However, it's not a very comfortable link, and you will drop combos if you try to implement this. Yeah, and you can't even launch from that. Yeah, no, that's terrible. Let's try this again. Nope. Yeah, this isn't working. I guess it's useful to know that you can combo out of this arpeggio right here, because I've seen people come up with some weird little, like, corner-only combos with this, but I don't recommend using it for much of anything. Like, yes, it has a lot of active frames, but unlike all of Squigly's other moves that have just as many active frames, you can't cancel them at any moment. So you're just completely vulnerable throughout the entirety of this move. So that's pretty much all there is to say about this arpeggio. Oh, well, the Syria version, you can't actually combo out of it because it causes a slide. So I suppose if you have a Syria charge, you can throw out an arpeggio or implement one into combos, and that gives you ample time to get another charge. So if for some reason you have a Syria charge, but, I mean, you have a Serpent's Tail charge, but not a Dragon's Breath charge, using a Syria arpeggio is a good way to convert your charge from one to the other, basically. Again, though, I don't recommend ever being in that situation where you have a charge of this, but not one of this. Alright, next let's go over this quarter circle forward light punch, which is called Liver Mortis. And it's basically like a little, it's like a 1-inch punch that she has going on right here. The Syria version is very similar, except for one very subtle difference that I have the hitboxes on, but you can't quite see it. You know that, you can see that she's turning blue throughout, I believe it's like 7 or so frames of the animation here. Well, it's different actually. It's 17 frames of the animation on the normal version, and on the charged version, it is 9 frames of invulnerability. And that's all. It's like that light blue is only upper body invulnerability. So basically, versus a jump in or a high hitting attack, she'll be invulnerable throughout all that period that she's blue. But versus low hitting attack, you can still just completely interrupt that. And this slight difference between the Syria and the this very, very subtle difference between the Syria and the non-charged version of this attack are that basically the blue extends to the active frames. So the upper body invulnerability extends to the active frames in the charged version, and it does not extend to the active frames in the non-charged version. And what does this mean in layman's terms, you ask? It means that if you don't charge it, you're going to trade with everything. So this version is going to beat out most jump-ins, and this version is going to trade with, at best, most jump-ins. So, I mean, I really don't recommend using this move ever. However, you can use the charge version to as a pretty decent anti-air. What's important to know about this move is that it causes a knockdown. Whoops, that's... it causes a knockdown, so it gives you plenty of time to, you know, get a charge. So you can use it at the end of a combo to put some distance between you and the opponent and get a charge. If you have a charge and you're close to the wall, it causes a wall bounce. I wasn't close enough to the wall there. It causes a wall bounce. There we go. Which you can get a combo from. Yeah. But, I mean, there's better things you can spend your charge on than a Liver Mortis, so I wouldn't really recommend using it when you have a charge either. It's just kind of a move that's there. I suppose this is one of those things that, you know, if your opponent is coming onto the stage, then you can charge it and just hop around, and they'll have to guess as to what it is that you're charging, and usually they'll default to, well, let me jump in on you. And this is a charged version, at least, works really well as an anti-air, and if you're close to a wall, then you can capitalize with a combo. If you're not close to a wall, then you still have plenty of time to just charge and run away. So that's one thing that you can use it for, just basically like that mix-up. Like, you can add another tool, basically, that you can mix up with to make them guess what you're using when you're hopping around like this. It's either going to be center stage most of the time, or it can be a Dragon Punch, or it can be a Liver Mortis, which actually, funnily enough, kind of works like just as well, if not as good of an anti-air as Dragon Punch does when it's charged, because of that upper body invulnerability that it's got. That's pretty much all there is to say about Liver Mortis. Okay, next up we have quarter circle forward hard kick, which is tremolo. Okay, this is the ghettoest projectile in the game. I don't even know if does this hit low? Let's see. I don't think it does. Block type high. High. There we go. No, it doesn't hit low. Yeah, this is very, very bad. This is just a bad move. And the only reason I'm prioritizing it over those last few is because of the fact that the charge version goes full screen. So you can use it as a very ghetto projectile. And it also, if I take her off of block, it causes a knockdown. Bam. So this is another one of those moves that you can use to get a charge. So you can get that knockdown off. If you get off the charge version, then you can have a bunch of time to, you know, get a charge off. And so while I don't recommend really ever using the uncharged version of this, because it's just bad, let's face it. I don't even think this has as much range as a medium kick. Like, this is just bad. It maybe has a little bit more range than a medium kick, but it just has so much startup to it, and it's just not good. But the charge version, I totally recommend. Like, maybe if your opponent is just backing off of you and just running away from you, this is a good way to just catch them. And maybe get an opportunity to, like, center stage your way in, or charge the Dragon's Breath. Let's see, next up we have her Dragon Punch, which you can see me doing by accident all the time. And that's gonna happen to you. You're gonna get this when you want this a lot. That's just going to happen. You just have to be very mindful of when you move forward, because of the fact that Squigly has to dash everywhere. She can't just walk from point A to point B. So, like, you're going to get into situations where you want to dash up and then use this, and what you're accidentally going to end up doing is this. Just doing a Dragon Punch, because it's forward and then down forward. Like, to that extent, I wish that the inputs in this game were a little bit more strict, and this is the reason why in most games, you'll only, like, in older fighting games, you would only recognize forward, down, down, forward as the input for the Dragon Punch, and if you go too far, you might end up getting, you know, a Hadouken instead, but you will get this, you will get this Dragon Punch a lot by accident. Alright, now let's go over the actual, like, details of the move. Dragon Punch, the uncharged version, is practically useless as it is. Mike Z wants to buff this, which I'm all for. I feel like, he wants to buff it so that, you know, the entire... He's already buffed it so that the start... Well, he hasn't buffed it, he fixed it, so that the move itself is invincible, but that 16 frame startup is still very, very much not invincible. And what he wants to do is he wants to change it so that that 16 frame startup only for the Dragon Punch is invincible, and then find some way to make it, like, not abusable, because if this was invincible, then, you know, you just keep on mashing it, you know, and abuse that invincibility. But, you know, he wants to figure out some way to make this into a proper reversal without breaking, without basically making Squigly's invincible frames that are Dragon's Breath exploitable. And I'm all for buffing this move. However, like, in terms of reversals, you shouldn't really... I mean, she has Daisy Pusher, and that's a perfectly viable reversal. Although I can understand that in case your opponent is anticipating that, a lot of times they'll just jump back or jump up, and then a Dragon Punch will catch them. But I mean, I welcome the change. Although it might not entirely be necessary, but I mean, Squigly, she has a lot of useless specials as it is, and this is one of them. However, just because the uncharged version is useless does not mean that the charged version is useless. The charged version is actually pretty damned awesome. Just take a look at this. Bam. Full screen carry, as well as a knockdown. Suffice it to say, you have ample time to build a charge to rebuild your charge after you use this. It also does a hefty amount of damage there, 1650. So it's a great way to end combos. As a matter of fact, I recommend that you end if you don't know your resets if you don't have your resets quite nailed, then I recommend just opting for this, or not that. that's terrible, but this as a good combo finisher, because then you can just get your charge right back, or you can throw out one of these, and just the possibilities are endless. Alright, next up let's go over Silver Cord, which is her second most useful special, but also her most unsafe. On whiff, this is very unsafe. Like, you'd be stupid not to punish me for doing this. Basically, you should almost never use this move unless there are two applications, one of which is for this hit confirm right here. Oops. There we go. That is one of her most useful hit confirms to know. It's very, very, very useful. And you should keep in mind that while Silver Cord does scale your combos to 50% automatically, just don't let that make you overthink how Squigly works. And you should know that getting a suboptimal hit confirm is better than getting no hit confirm at all. Like, if your logic is, oh, I'm gonna go for a sweep because then I can charge and get more damage later, instead of getting a scaled combo now, your logic is still flawed because of the fact that this scaled combo can still get you like up to 5,000 damage, which is still better than the 1,000 or 2,000 extra damage that you're gonna get for a combo later on. So yeah, don't ever let that, I mean, like, you should never be using Silver Cord to extend your combos unnecessarily. Like, if you can still get more damage before it scales, then totally do it. But just keep in mind that sometimes this is your best option. And needless to say, as I mentioned before, you can easily extend combos by doing something like, yeah, something like that. You can make really, really stupid long stancel combos that do stupid amounts of damage, and it is great. So basically, the gist about Squigly's Silver Cord is never use it by itself. Like, you will catch the opponent off guard, but the risk is just way too high for the reward. I mean, like, if your opponent punishes you, they can go for a full damage jump-in combo. Whereas, if you manage to catch your opponent with this, the best you can do is a 50% combo, which is, yeah, it's not good. So yeah, extending combos and hit confirms is what that's good for. Next up, we have Squigly's best, in my opinion, her best normal, and like, this is really what makes Squigly unique, and it's her center stage. This move, there's so much happening here that I just have to go through it one at a time. Let's go with her uncharged version. Generally speaking, the uncharged version is unsafe. Like, if you just throw this out there, you're gonna get blown up for it. If your opponent doesn't get too disoriented by moving the screen around, like, you're gonna get blown up for it. However, it's very important to know that, you know, Squigly, if you have her on your team as part of a team, then this is probably the best assist to use, just because of the fact that that screen movement is so useful. And what's happening here is every time I use center stage, the screen centers on Squigly just for, you know, a couple seconds. I don't know exactly how many frames it is, but just the screen centers on Squigly, and even if your opponent is off screen when that happens, it will drag them towards you. And that'll completely ruin their timing on a lot of stuff. If they're already close to you, you should never be doing this, because all it does is shifts the screen a tiny bit. But if you're trying to get in, that is the way to do it. Rather, you're not getting in, you're getting the opponent closer to you. But I don't ever recommend just using this by itself, unless Squigly is like you're using it as an assist. What I recommend doing is charging it. Now, charge center stage is ridiculously powerful. In addition to moving the screen, it also creates a temporary corner, as I demonstrated earlier when I was throwing. Like, let's try it again. If I were to use center stage, if I were to throw and then use center stage, that creates a wall so that I can get that wall bounce. Same if I were to I don't even know if this works. Let's try this. There we go, that works. Good luck finding an opponent that'll let you do that, but yeah, you're basically creating a corner there. A temporary corner that you can use to do some crazy stuff. So yeah, that's happening, in addition to the fact that this also causes a super flash. Now, what's the benefit of the super flash, you ask? Well, you can cancel out of this super flash into a proper super. Now, usually when you use Daisy Pusher, just like, you know, Akuma's Shingokusatsu, like, this can be jumped. Like, even if you get it, after the hit stop, there's a frame where if you're holding up, you'll just jump out of it, and you can punish Squigly horribly. However, what some players don't know is that if you cancel a serious center stage... Oops, that was... God damn it. If you cancel a serious center stage into that daisy pusher, they cannot jump that. That is an inescapable throw setup. And daisy pusher is not the only super that you can cancel that into. You can also cancel it into this, or you can cancel it into... let's wait for that one to go away. Or you can cancel it into this. You know, you can cancel it into this. And if you don't see what the difference is between all those supers that I just used, I'll go more into detail in the next section. But just know that pretty much when you let this out, depending on where the opponent is on the screen, you can always hit them with a super. Except in one very specific circumstance where you let it out too late and the opponent has already pretty much got the jump on you. But yeah, just know that if you let this out and you're on point, you can almost always do the right thing there. Okay, I think that's all there is to say about center stage, really. I mean, I'll go more into depth about what you can do with it later on when I go into her resets and her combos and whatnot. But yeah, and her supers. But for now, let's talk about Squigly's dive kick, which I've mentioned briefly, but I haven't really... Alright, well, there's two different kinds of dive kicks that Squigly has. The first one is, I just like to call it her dive kick, or as the game calls it, Fallen Woman. But this is her dive kick. It's down forward light kick or down forward medium kick. And they function like, you know, your just typical dive kicks. They're not overheads, so your opponent can block them low. Let's go ahead and demonstrate this really quickly. Crouch, oh not crouch, oh yeah, crouch. Block type, high, blocking always. So, or not high. Block type low. Boop. There we go. Yeah, so the opponent can block these low. However, they should not. Why? All opponents have to treat these dive kicks as if they're overheads, because of the fact that the hard punch version, I crossed up there, the hard kick version is in fact an overhead. So if you're ever finding that the opponent is consistently blocking these dive kicks of yours low, you can punish them for that by just throwing one of those into the mix. And basically you have to classically condition your opponent to always block these high. And if you notice that they're not doing that, give them a little bit of negative reinforcement. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, the light kick version of this dive kick, it's sort of neutral on hit in most cases, so you cannot get a combo from it. And the reason I say sort of is because you do have an advantage there, but it's not enough to actually get a combo. I think it's a 4-frame advantage in most cases, unless you hit this like in a very specific way in which you can combo, but yeah, just know that the light kick version, you're typically not going to be able to combo from that. The only situations you're going to want to use this in is if you're in the air and you want to get down to the ground fast, because Squigly is a pretty floaty character. The dive kick will get her to the ground faster. Or in certain circumstances, you can do resets with this light kick, and I'll go more into detail about what I'm doing here later, but let me just really quickly... There we go. Let's just really quickly bop, bop, bop. Yeah, stuff like that. It's actually a 1-frame reset that you can do with this, where the opponent might be expecting you to do the medium one and have a combo, but the light kick will just barely not combo. But yeah, just in most cases, you're going to want to go for this medium one. Just keep in mind that there are certain circumstances in which you're going to want to vary it up. Okay, and then the hard kick version is what I like to call Gravedigger. Like, I call the light kick and medium kicks just for normal dive kicks. But the hard kick version is a different move entirely, because it has this knock up and then this knockdown. And it's very tempting to be like, oh, I can take advantage of that knock up and not even waste the knockdown. And you can. There's basically, I think, 3 ways of taking advantage of this knock up. One, as I just showed, was just a straight up jump with a light kick. Oh, messed that up. Is just a straight up jump with a light kick and just capitalize for another air combo. Another is if you happen to have Serpent's Tail charged, you can get a Silver Cord down. That works if you have it charged, but it's still very difficult to actually do. There we go. And then that doesn't waste the knockdown. And then the third way is if you're in, or if you're like near a corner. This is very weird, the spacing on it. But if you're near a corner, you can get one of these. But that's, I don't really recommend trying to do that because it's kind of difficult. The hurt box on this, like, ground to air launcher is only right there on the tip of Squigly's toe, and it only has like one active frame on it, so I don't really recommend trying to time that properly, but you can do it. But yeah, so that's the difference between the two different kinds of dive kicks. It's very important to know, you know, when should I use medium kick? When should I mix it up with hard kick if they're blocking too low? I mean, if they're blocking low too often. And when should I use light kick? Use that for resets. Or just to get to the ground, if you absolutely have to. I don't even recommend using this to get to the ground faster, because of the fact that you can get punished, whereas it's much safer to just hold back. But so yeah, that's pretty much all of Squigly's specials. Man, I'm blazing through this. Not. Alright, so let's get talking about Squigly's meter usage. There is a lot to say when it comes to Squigly's supers, so forgive me if I sort of trail off or go on tangents about this, because there's so much practical usage of her meter, and it is just mind-boggling what you can do with it. Her meter is more important to, Squigly's meter is more important to her than any other character in the game. You can't play her like a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 character where, you know, you just let meter out there because it's, hey, it's chip damage or whatever. There are lots and lots of very, very, very specific circumstances in which you should use her meter, and if you don't have it, you're at a disadvantage. Alright, so let's just run through them really quickly, and then I'll go more in depth about, you know, what you can do with her meter. First off, I just want to demonstrate this. Down forward hard punch, hard kick. It's just her snapback, doesn't do any damage, causes a wall bounce, or if you're not playing a solo character, it'll knock them out and get the next character in play. Everybody has it, that's general strategy. Not really anything in particular about Squigly to say there. Next up, we have Daisy Pusher. There's one frame after the Super Flash there where the opponent can jump out of it. Otherwise, it's a very good command grow. It can be used as a reversal because of the fact that it's completely invulnerable throughout the startup and the active portion of the move. But you definitely don't want to overuse it. Hell, you don't want to use it at all just by itself. You don't want to use it at all just like throwing it out there and hoping that your opponent will fall into it. It's not good like that. There's very specific usage for this move. Next up we have Squigly Battle Opera. There's 3 versions of this move, depending on which 2 kicks you press. It's down back kick kick. Down back light kick medium kick will get you this. Down back hard kick medium kick will get you this. And down back light kick hard kick will get you this. And all 3 of those are equally useful depending on the circumstances. So just keep in mind, you definitely want to get it down to muscle memory as to which one to use in which positions. Next up we have her Inferno of Leviathan. This move is super cool. Let me see if I can demonstrate to you why this is so cool. I doubt it, but let's just get her to jump here. Alright, I'm going to purposefully try and miss her with this. So, bam. She got hit. It hit her once, and it comes back. And it's going to keep on coming back and hunting down the player until it at least makes that last hit. Now, it does the most damage when you get it on the first way through. It does all 10 hits. However, every time it leaves the screen, it loses a hit. So that means that it's going to keep on running back and forth and seeking you out until it connects with you and makes at least that 10th hit. So basically, you can just throw this out there if your opponent has no health, and you win the game, even if it connects for that last hit, you know? It'll do enough damage. Did it lose more than 1 hit there? I think it loses 3 hits every time it loses the screen. Yeah, it only did 7 hits there. Okay, so I guess it loses 3 hits. I doubt she can dodge it twice. I don't think the AI, the training dummy set to jump is good enough to do that, but let's try. No, she's not going to be able to dodge that doing that. But you can dodge this indefinitely. However, it's very, very difficult because it's impossible to predict where it's going to go. This move, it's cool and it's fancy and it's very trolly, but it doesn't actually have that much practical application. There is one circumstance in which if you have 3 meter, I would always recommend you do it, and that is if you get a happy birthday, a double snapback. You just want to... If you manage to catch both somebody and their assist in a combo, and you don't want either of them to fall out of it, then it's a good idea to do something like this. That'll catch both characters and do a stupid high amount of damage if you have 3 meter. So that's the only actual practical application for that move, aside from just, you know, trolling your opponent or, you know, desperately getting something out there in case your opponent is absolutely just wrecking you. However, I wouldn't recommend using it in that latter situation. I'd recommend getting better. But yeah, that's all of Squigly's supers. And, you know, there's not much to say about this and this. However, Squigly's Daisy Pusher and Squigly Battle Opera are essential tools in her arsenal. And if you'll notice, like, these moves don't do a lot of damage. So if I use Squigly Battle Opera here, just by itself, completely unscaled, it does 1740. And that's if you get all 5 hits, and that's it unscaled. So that's not a lot of damage. She can do more damage with her fucking Dragon Bite here. Yeah. So Squigly Battle Opera is not really the big damage output super like a lot of characters have. Neither is Daisy Pusher, actually. If you get it raw like this, you can do a good 2400 damage, or 2500 damage rather. However, you should never use it in an actual combo, because the only thing that you can combo it from is Silver Cord, and that scales the damage by at least half. So you're going to be getting like, what, 1250 damage out of it at best? That's not worth it for a super, especially not with Squigly. What you're going to want to use for Super 4 is, there are 2 situations in which Squigly Battle Opera comes in handy, and one is just like zoning or counter zoning. And so if you're at about, let's say you're getting zoned out by a Parasol or a Peacock, and there's not really much you can do. If you can manage to get this double jump in, then even if you don't connect with this, even if your opponent backdashes or something and you can't get this hit off, you should always follow up with this. Because that'll just completely wreck your opponent's day when it comes to trying to zone you out. And the reason for that is because, A, this completely eats projectiles. Anything that you throw at this will completely die. And B, if you connect with it, you can get a full combo. Even if you connect in the air, this causes a knockdown. Of course, you don't even have to use the knockdown if you're good at catching your opponent with that jumping light kick. So yeah, absolutely keep that in mind, that you can use this as a counter zoning technique. And the other 2 versions work very well just as zoning techniques. So if you use the airborne version, this, you can completely wreck the day of anybody who's trying to get the jump on you. And a lot of times you'll have a Filia player in particular just try to get that hairball and get directly over you. And while Squigly's anti-airs are not generally that good, you can wreck a Filia player that is directly above you by doing this. So yeah, remember, this is good for counter zoning, or for comboing from this. And the other 2 versions are amazing for zoning. I mean, hell, this is the epitome of zoning right here. You're basically, when you're doing this, you're blocking off a section of the entire screen. This is zoning in its purest form, is what this move is. If anybody says Peacock is the best zoner in the game, I will present this move as evidence otherwise. If Squigly could do this with no super, she'd be the best. Of course, that goes without saying, but still. It's one of the best techniques for zoning that I've ever seen in a video game. Save for, like, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, like, Cyclops craziness or some shit like that. Okay, there's another very, very, very powerful application for Squigly's meter that you should always, always keep in mind. And that involves Squigly's charged Serious Center Stage. Now, I want you to watch what I'm doing right here. And just let me turn the hitboxes on here as well. Alright, simple. Alright, just keep a very close eye as to what's going on here. Now what I did there was I cancelled out of the Super Flash of Squigly's Serious Center Stage into her Daisy Pusher. Now as I mentioned earlier, usually when you use Daisy Pusher, if your opponent is holding up, they will just get right out of it. Even if they're jumping and they land into it, if it's a neutral jump, they can just hold up to get right back out of it again. And that's why you typically shouldn't use Daisy Pusher by itself. However, if you cancel it from a Serious Center Stage, not only will you get the full 2500 damage and the combo, you will also create an inescapable throw setup. They cannot jump this. When you cancel it out of that Serious Center Stage, you're effectively giving it hit stop, even though it automatically has a frame where you can, it normally has a frame where you can jump. And this will catch everybody off guard. You don't have to worry about getting a reversal on your opponent if you just use Serious Center Stage, because you have that full duration of the Super Flash to confirm what your opponent is doing. If you do this and they're still on the ground, you can easily use that and guarantee yourself a Daisy Pusher. Even if they're not on the ground, let's go ahead and make her jump here. Don't forget that you can still counter into a Squigly Battle Opera, just like this. Hell, that's not even the efficient one to use there. If your opponent is in the air, the best thing to do is use that. Remember that not only can you catch them coming down from that, it causes a knockdown, so if you haven't already spent your knockdown, you can just catch them like that. So what I'll absolutely recommend that you do is, if you find yourself in a tough spot, or if you find yourself in an advantageous spot, if you find yourself in a situation where you've just defeated one opponent and the other opponent is about to come on the screen, what I recommend you do is just, this is really hard to demonstrate here, but what you want to do is basically just charge this Dragon's Breath and get towards the center of the screen. And just basically, if you can do this as well, find your opponent's corpse and just try to hop back and forth on top of it in the center of the screen. And what this will do is two things. A, hopping back and forth over your opponent's corpse will make it so that you they won't know which side of the screen they're coming from. It's basically random as to, you know, which side that you're facing when they come out of the screen. And the second thing that it does is, as soon as they appear, it gives you a good it gives you a good amount of time to confirm what it is they're doing, and to determine when to let go and let out the Serious Center Stage. For instance, if they come out onto the screen and they touch the ground, you can let it go, Daisy Pusher, and then combo and ruin their day without giving them a chance to do anything as soon as they come on the screen. Second, if they come out and they jump, or if they come out and do something that makes them persist on the screen, like I think a Parasol can throw tears or something like that, then you let it go. You use Squigly Battle Opera with the hard kick, medium kick version. If, and this happens a lot with Philia, if she comes out and uses a hairball immediately to just get directly above you, then you let go, and you use the light kick, hard kick version of Squigly Battle Opera to just knock her out of the air. There's essentially, if you time it right and if you don't delay too long on letting out the Serious Center Stage, there's nothing that an opponent can do except block. That always happens. Moreover, sometimes if your opponent is getting too used to your shenanigans and realizes that there's nothing they can do but jump and neutral block, then you can catch them off guard by charging a Dragon Punch instead of a Serious Center Stage. Usually, after you play somebody enough times, they'll be programmed to immediately assume that you're charging a Serious Center Stage here. And so if you're charging a Dragon Punch, you can just... Oh. If you're charging a Dragon Punch instead, you'll just completely catch them off guard and still get the knockdown. But yeah. So that is the primary usage for Squigly Super. And this is actually why I recommend that you always charge her Dragon's Breath as opposed to her Serpent's Tail. Because of the fact that you can always just do this. Oops, You can always just let out this, that Serious Center Stage and then just do a Daisy Pusher or whatever, depending on where your opponent is. And if you have it charged and stored, you can even just implement this into block strings. Like, you can do something like, let's make her block first. There we go. You can implement this into block strings. And if they don't jump, then you have an immediate combo. But so yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about Squigly Supers without going into reset territory, so let's go into reset territory. Okay, the reset game. There's a lot to say about Squigly's reset game, just because she has quite a bit of reset game. And in order to be an effective Squigly player, you have to know about all of her resets and know when to use which ones. So I'm going to go over 4 different types of resets that Squigly can do. And of course there are different variations of these different types of resets that you can employ, but I'm just going to go over my favorite ones, the ones that I like to use. And you can use that same logic to change them up however you please, and just apply the same logic there into, you know, whatever combos that you'd like to do. So the first one I'm going to do is the most basic one. I'll work my way from the basic resets into the more advanced ones. So the first one I'm going to start with is the basic 1-frame high-low reset. And it's not necessarily like truly a high-low reset, but it practically is. So let's go ahead and demonstrate. Before I actually do the reset, I'm going to demonstrate a longer version of this reset combo, just to show why this works. And I want to stress here that whenever you see a dive kick, I'm going to be doing the medium kick version of the dive kick. Okay, so as you saw there, I did that restand twice, that air-to-ground restand. That involves me doing this dive kick and then something. Now, if I were to replace that second dive kick with a light dive kick instead of a medium, that crouching light kick would no longer connect by exactly 1 frame. How do I know this? Because this would connect. And this is 5 frames, which means that if this doesn't connect and this is 6 frames, then you have yourself a 1-frame reset. It might even be a 0-frame reset, depending on how you count them. But, so I'm going to do that exact same combo, except that second dive kick I'm going to replace with a light kick. And to demonstrate this, I am going to set the dummy to not block. And just keep an eye on the combo meter to understand when the reset takes effect. So if you notice there, the combo meter reset, and I did not trigger on Dizzy. So that was the reset. Now, you can employ this however you want. Just keep in mind that if you do that air restand, and then you do a light kick into that, you do a light kick dive kick into that crouching light kick, that is a 1-frame reset. It's very important to know. This is the most basic of basics resets, and it's very, very, very effective. As a matter of fact, this is the only one of her resets that I would not call gimmicky. The rest of her resets can very easily be called, like, you know, gimmicks, and against somebody who really knows what they're doing, they will not work more than once. However, they're still very important to know, because resetting in Skullgirls is not about, you know, finding one ultimate reset, it's about knowing multiple resets and making your opponent guess which one you're going to use. Or forcing them to look out for all of them, which could cause them to make critical missteps. Okay, so that's the 1-frame crouching light kick reset, as I like to call it. Next one I'm going to do is called the air throw reset. I demonstrated this earlier, but let's demonstrate this as part of a full combo this time. So, there's one special exception to this that I'm going to demonstrate after I do this on Philia. So, let's go ahead and do this on Philia. Now, if you noticed, I did a reset there with the air throw. And from that air throw reset, you can actually combo. You can continue on. Usually, you're going to trigger Undizzy from that reset if you continue the second combo for too long, but there's ways around that, and there's ways that you can, you know, just keep on resetting your opponent. And actually, the most effective way to continue that combo is with the next reset that I'm about to show, which is the burst bait reset. But before I go into that, I want to demonstrate one special case and one variant of this air throw reset that you need to know if you play against double. So let's go ahead and switch characters here. Okay, so here I am with double. And double is a really finicky character and a pain in the ass to fight because of the fact that her weight and her size are so different from every other character in the game. A, she's the tallest character in the game, which means that she's very difficult to cross up properly. And she's also impossible to get this little unblockable off on, which is, I mean, I shouldn't say impossible, but it creates things so, it makes things so much more difficult, and it makes her unblockable reset that involves this impossible. Also, the fact that she has a crouching hitbox also messes things up, and in my opinion, the most annoying thing about double is the fact that she falls so much faster than everybody else. And if you notice, what I did there was that same air throw reset, and I timed it almost exactly the same. However, double falls too fast to actually fall for it. So here's a variation of that same air throw reset that again works on everybody. However, if you're not playing double, I recommend using the first form that I showed you before, because this is a little bit less safe versus a lot of players, but it's your only option against double. So what you want to do is basically that exact same form of reset, except you want to not jump with the hard kick. You want to hard kick and then jump. And so let me demonstrate this in an actual combo. Hopefully I can get it off my first try. Nope. This actually ties into something else about Squigly's combos versus double, but I'll go into that later. Alright, so if you'll notice, instead of jumping with the hard kick there on the relaunch, I jumped after the hard kick. And basically you want to just jump and press the throw at the same time. Oh. There we go. You're going to want to practice timing that a little bit, but I swear it's easier than it looks. Basically you want to keep an eye on her fall arc, and then as soon as she starts to come down, that's when you do it. Also, as far as I know, you have to use this crouching light punch as opposed to her crouching light kick or standing light kick for that the continuation of that. I'm not sure exactly why. I just know that sometimes you drop it. See, if you opt for that crouching light kick. So that's another special side note, and double has a lot of footnotes for when you're fighting against her, and it's a pain in the ass, but you just have to grit your teeth and bear it. Okay, so the next reset that I want to demonstrate is probably the most effective online, and it has the highest payoff. However, you want to be absolutely careful not to overuse this one because of the fact that if you see it coming, you will absolutely not fall to it. And this is a burst bait, and there's a lot of different ways that you can employ this burst bait, but the way that it works is it involves this. Let's turn the hitboxes on for this. It involves this crouching hard punch. And the trick to this is that the range on this crouching hard punch is just slightly larger than the range on an IPS burst. So you can effectively get all 4 hits of this crouching hard punch off while still being completely out of range of the IPS burst. And so let's demonstrate really quickly how this works. Let's leave the hitboxes on. Oh, I'm not supposed to do that version of the combo. Just double. Bam. So you can absolutely bait 4 hits out of that. I dropped it there. But you can absolutely bait 4 hits of this crouching hard punch on any opponent. And if they burst anywhere between those 4 hits, it'll usually be on either the first or the fourth that you'll notice that people start to burst. But if they burst anywhere between this 4-hit duration, you can just punish with a silver cord, which is the easiest and most reliable way to punish. However, if you're really greedy, you can try to cancel this and go in for a full punish. And once you get really good at doing this burst bait and feeling out, like, you know, the timing on those bursts, you can get to the point at which you can consistently just punish the burst for full damage, just dash in and punish. However, I recommend just starting out to go with the safe option and just opt for that silver cord punish. Oh, god damn it. You're never going to drop that silver cord. However, I cannot say for a fact that if you always opt to go for the full run-in punish, that you will not drop it, because it's very easy to do. Alright, the next reset... Oh, actually, there is one special case for this burst bait reset that I want to point out. That actually involves the Squigly mirror match. So let's really quickly just go back and pick Squigly. Okay, so here I am with Squigly versus Squigly, and this isn't really something that you can realize just by watching me do it, but I want to demonstrate anyways, because this is something that if you try to do that burst bait reset, you will run into this problem, and that is the fact that Squigly, after the silver cord, she's a little bit further away from you, or rather her hitboxes, than every other character in the game, so it's very easy to backdash too far and basically miss or whiff this this crouching hard punch and screw up your burst bait. So I'm just gonna demonstrate this really quickly. What you want to do is be careful not to backdash too far. So versus Squigly, and she's the only character that works like this, you want to backdash a lot less far. So it looked like I was very, very close to her. However, that's fine. You have to stay closer to Squigly than everybody else when you're doing that burst bait. Otherwise, it just will not... Do you see that? It's the way that her hitboxes are shaped that just make it so that at this range where this move would hit everybody else in the game, it just will not hit Squigly. So that's one of the important things. Matter of fact, I found that in terms of, you know, customizing your combos for specific characters and, like, characters that have specific footnotes to certain combos that will or will not work, Double and Squigly are your end cases. There is no... If your combo works on Double and it works on Squigly, I'm 99% certain it'll work on anybody else in the game. Because they have the most, like... They are the two most different characters in terms of their weight and their size and their hitboxes and everything like that. I feel like they have the most, like, side notes. If that makes sense. Alright, so the final reset that actually there's one alternate form of this reset that I want to demonstrate really quickly. It's pretty easy. Basically, you can do this just as effectively, if not more so, after a Gravedigger instead of Silver Cord. I messed it up there. Let's try this again. There we go. And so if they start to read that burst bait, you can sometimes catch them off guard by doing it after the Gravedigger instead of after the Silver Cord. Alright. The next one is a little bit in-depth, so let's change characters. Okay, this fourth reset that I want to show off is probably her most technical one, and also her most game-breaky one, so I don't guarantee that this will remain in the game for much longer once Mike Z gets wind of it, but maybe he'll leave it in, you know, for posterity's sake. But, this involves the Unblockable that I demonstrated earlier when I was going through her normals. And so let's just demonstrate this one more time by setting Peacock here to Always Guard, and... oh. Let's go ahead and get the spacing right on this. Oh. Nope. needless to say, it's easier to do on some characters than it is on others. At least it feels that way. There we go. So she's set to always block, and if you time it and space it just right, you can actually get an unblockable by doing this medium punch. It's not that easy to do on Peacock. It's actually easiest to do on, I believe, Philia and Painwheel. However, this reset, I only recommend doing it on the 3 characters that I have selected here: Peacock, Painwheel, and Misfortune. And the reason why I only recommend doing it on those 3 characters is because those are the only 3 characters in the game that cannot reverse this with a super, with a counter super, with a counter move. That's not entirely true, but I should say that they can't reverse it with 2 or less meter. And as a matter of fact, you can also pull this off on Valentine and sort of force her. The only way that she can pull reversal is if she does counter venom, which is 2 meters. But I wouldn't recommend that either. It's not that easy to get on Valentine. Again, so this reset right here is specific. You should consider it to be specific to Peacock, Painwheel, and Misfortune. It works on everybody else, but they can easily reverse it. And it does not work, actually, I should say it works on everybody else except for Double and Parasol, who are a little bit too tall for this reset to work. So, most effective against Painwheel, Misfortune, Peacock, doesn't work on Double Parasol, so that's what I should say. Alright, so this is probably going to take me quite a few tries to get correct. So before I actually try to start to pull off this reset in a full combo, I am going to demonstrate why I recommend that you do this against Peacock, Misfortune, and Parasol. So, let's go ahead and set their... Let's set them to playback as reversal. There we go. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to silver chord into this reset. And this reset, as far as I know, can only be done after a silver chord, although you're free to try and figure out other ways to get the frame timings to line up properly. Alright, so let's see if I can get this off. Alright, buzz, everything good. Let's set it to always block. After this, alright, so let's do this. Bam. Oh, wait. Alright, so let's grab her with the silver cord. There we go. Set it to always block. Alright, let's see if I can do this right. Nope. There we go. As you can see, when you do this properly, if she tries to counter super out of it, you'll end up double crossing her up, so you'll end up forcing her to do it on the... that's annoying now. Let's turn that off for the time being. She'll be if she tries to counter super it, usually, unless something gets messed up with the timing, she'll end up letting the Argus Agony out to the right, and you'll be on the left, and the punch will still connect. So that's what happens in Peacock's case when she tries to counter super. And as far as I know, there's no special moves that will reverse this effectively, so you'll just be forced to have to try and get out of it in other ways. And there are ways to get out of this, even though it's unblockable. So, let's see. Next up, let's demonstrate what happens to... God damn it. Let's demonstrate what happens to Misfortune. Here we go. Now, if you'll notice, I already knocked off Misfortune's head, and the reason for that is because I wanted to demonstrate that just because her head is gone does not mean her hitbox changes. It is exactly the same. As you can see, the hitbox is still there for her head, despite the fact that her head is not. So, don't... It's easy to, like, make it... It gets a lot harder to place it in your head, like, where to place this punch to get the unblockable off. But you should just know that the spacing and the timing is exactly the same regardless of whether or not her head is knocked off. Alright, let's turn the hitboxes back off. And let's make the dummy block here, just to demonstrate that this does in fact work. She's blocking. She's blocking. She's blocking this, blocking this. Okay, so let's get that head out of the way. Shoo, be gone. Alright. So, let's see if I can get this timing correct. Nope. There we go. Bam. So, there we go. It works a lot easier on Misfortune than it does on Peacock. Let's take her back off of block for the time being. And let's demonstrate what happens when she tries to counter super. Oh, damn it. Alright, that's not what I wanted to do. Alright, get over here. Set her to always block. And let's set her to reversal super. That was too far. Nope. There we go. You'll notice there, I didn't follow up the super. I should have, but I didn't follow up the reset. I should have, but if you'll notice, even if she tries to counter super that, you'll still hit her because of the fact that if you do it right, she'll be facing the opposite direction. So that's why it works against Misfortune. Now next, let's move on to Pain Wheel. Damn it! All right, let's try this again. All right. Get out of here. Come on. Come. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Damn it. There we go. Get out. Here we go. Pain Wheel. Alright, let's change up Pain Wheel's thing so that she does a counter... Whatchamahoo's Death Crawl. Takes a while to set up. Alright, that should be good. Alright, I'll just put her back on always block. There we go. Alright. And that's what happens when Pain Wheel tries to Death Crawl out. She can actually escape using a Death Crawl, but she cannot reverse using a Death Crawl, which is why I recommend that you do this reset against Pain Wheel. Alright, that took way longer than it should have, but Alright, now let's actually show this reset off in all its glory. So in order to show this off, I'm just going to have to get lucky, aren't I? There's no real easy way to do this, so I'm just going to have to set her to... I'm just going to set her to after first hit. That'll still demonstrate it. There we go. And if you realize, you can pretty much do this reset over and over again. I mean, if you try to go for a full combo after this reset, you'll trigger Undizzy, but you should be able to kill pretty much anybody with just 2 resets of this, well, just using this reset twice. And this is one of the only resets that I would advocate using, like, multiple times in a row, just because it's so tricky to actually get out of. See, I actually comboed there because I didn't time it right. So the timing for this reset is a little bit variable, but very, very particular. So this backdash that you have to do after the silver cord, that is, you have to get that within 16 and 18 frames of that backdash, and then jump on the next frame. And then after this jump, you want to hit medium punch on anywhere between the 28th and the 30th frame. So that's 16 to 18 frames back, and then 28 to 30 frames up, and then medium punch. And that's the range at which you'll hit it, but you're still not guaranteed to make this even if you manage to hit like 2 values of like any timings within that range. Like with Pain Wheel, you run the risk of actually doing it too early and just straight up comboing instead of getting the reset. And with Peacock, you have the opposite problem where, like, with Pain Wheel, it's very easy to place correctly, but it's difficult to time. With Misfortune, it's pretty much easy all around. And with Peacock, it's difficult to place and difficult to time. So you're just going to want to practice this ad nauseum until you have it down to a science. Like, even I don't have it quite down to a science yet, but with a little bit of practice, this will become a valuable tool unless it gets nerfed. But so, I'm just going to record myself doing a couple of touch of death combos with this reset, and then I'll just play that back.